welcome back from the news. Thank you for staying with us. It's still Frontline, and we're heading on to our interview segment. Edo State House of Assembly, of course, we're looking at some crisis which has emerged in the State House of Assembly following the alleged decision by the governor of the state, Governor Godwin Obaseki, to his failure to inaugurate a full house, to set up a proclamation that would make for the implementation of the inauguration of the seventh House of Assembly. And of course, it's led to several backs and forth within the House. But recall that in 2014-2016, there were some similar skirmishes within the House of Assembly, which has raised concerns about how sacrosanct the House of Assembly in any state at all should be. The Dorset House of Assembly, again in its recent crisis, is generating conversation. And I am being joined today by a political analyst, Comrade Oladimeji Salako, with whom we will be looking at the development in the State House of Assembly and what implications this have or will have on Nigeria's democracy and, of course, legislative activities in the states and spread across other states. Thank you for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you join us again on the program.
Thank you very much.
Edo State House of Assembly is a relatively young House of Assembly. I mean, it's seventh,
Yes.
exactly. And we've seen in previous years, I mean, it would date back from recently, 2014, 2016, and of course we've seen in 2019 issues which has made or placed a question mark on the integrity of the legislative arm in the state, and of course the executive's influence in all of this. But I'd like to ask, following all of this development, the former national chairman of the APC, John Odigwe, said that the emerging situation in Edo State is a fallout of godfatherism. I'm going to ask you, would you say this is a reflection of Nigeria's politics?
Yeah, thank you once again. I would like to say that godfatherism should not necessarily be should not necessarily have a negative connotation as against the popular view on godfatherism. There's a need to reconceptualize godfatherism perhaps into political mentorship. So for me, I think we should not be too emotional about the way we handle some of these political concepts to make them mean as though they are embarrassing or they harass our political system. No political system, even in the outside world, can survive without political mentorship. So for me, John Odigwe is also a godfather to some politicians, perhaps during his own limelight in the political scene. So Oshiomhole is a godfather to some today. He was a godson to somebody, In fact, the governor of the present and sitting governor of Edo State, Governor Obaseki, was also a godson to him at some point before everything went into.
Things fell apart, and the center could no longer.
Exactly. So godfatherism is not something so bad. As a matter of fact, we can use it as a veritable instrument to consolidate our political system.
Thank you. And I appreciate the fact you've helped us understand what godfatherism should entail. But just by way of recall, the standing issue in the Edo State House of Assembly has been linked to the skirmishes, the fallout between, like you rightly said, the godfather, Adams Oshiomhole, maybe former godfather now, because he used to be a godfather to the seventh governor, Godwin Obaseki, who is trying to pull off the strings or the hold of the APC, present APC national chairman. And again, it's really led to some unnecessary, skirmishes, like you would usually call them. The fact that the governor went on to inaugurate some 9 members of the 24 members elected to the House of Assembly, and also to let you know that the entire 24 members of the State House of Assembly, that's Edo State House of Assembly, all APC members. He went on to do that at night, around 9:30 p.m., according to news report. But the concern now is the 24 members are APC members. Irrespective of whether some are trying to prevent the influence of the APC national chairman, or the others trying to say, no, we will not be some form of puppet to the governor. The 24 people in this House of Assembly are APC members. What would you say? I mean, is this necessary? Should we even be talking about these issues emerging in the State House of Assembly?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, I appreciate this particular question, and it brings into the fore my understanding of Nigerian politics, especially in the realm of party politics. You see, I've always said that, you see, crisis within political parties is not, or party crisis is not really inter-party differences, but inter-interests. You see, whether within a single political party or between two or more political parties. You see, it's not a question of ideological differences. It's not a question of philosophical differences. It's a question of inter-interest. You see, the interest that each member brings into the house is mosaic, is opposing, is different, and there's no way, you know, you have a single house with different mindsets that have come to advance different interests. The consequence is what you will see, and that's what we are seeing today. And it's not just alone in Edo State. You see, it's a reflection of our Nigerian politics. You see, we kind of have, some a kind of entitled representatives. Those who felt that they need to divert the interest of those who elected them. They believe at the moment they have been elected, they become a single entity, that can, advance some sort of interest against the interest, of those that they represent. So there's a problem, there's a question of inter-interest, and until and unless, we get that, we get that solved. That is, members that we elect to the House, even to the executives, are in the business of representing the interest of the masses and not their own interest, because whatever that is playing out now, is obviously not in the interest of the masses. Whether because the Naira has now rose to G12 now, because I think July 3rd, the speaker swore in another man, Emmanuel Agbaje, who apologized for his previous fallout with the G9. You see, if you look at all of this is embarrassing. This cannot be in the interest of the people. So we need a kind of, whether the G12 on the one side and the other G12 on the other side, none of them are portraying the interest of the people, because the business of the legislative has not even started. We are just talking about leadership and the principal officers of the House. So the interest of the masses since May 29 has been put into contours. Till today, July 11, we are still discussing who leads the House. So it's a problem, and it's embarrassing. And I think it's important for the All Progressive Congress to come swiftly into this matter and make sure that, because this is the second time since Edo State House of Assembly was created, that we'll be having members coming from one single political party, and they need to learn on how PDP dealt with that circumstance in 2003, even in 2007, where all members are from the People's Democratic Party. It allows for easy flow of passage of bills, and it's consolidate good governance. You see, we should be able to get something interesting different from what we have in other states that has a divided house with perhaps 2 or 3 or 4 political parties. You see, Edo State should take this as an advantage to consolidate good governance and then to advance the interest of the people, and not this show of shame that we are witnessing today.
Very well said. But let's talk again about the influence, or how much influence a party should have, especially over the activities of the legislative arm of government in any state. For instance, you rightly mentioned that usually when parties have issues, when they have crisis, it isn't usually different people have brought into the party. Now let's look at some of the things the Edo State, the leader of the Edo State APC said. That's in the person of Barrister. Okay, I'm trying to figure out now. Barrister. I can't. Okay, the Edo State All Progressives Congress Chairman, Barrister Anselm Ojezua, would it say that if the other parties would apologize, I mean the rest of the members whom were not inaugurated June 17th, when the 9 members were initially inaugurated, I said, and I quote him, the 15 lawmakers were going off the party's line, or the party's path, which is what he used, and he said if they would find their way back, they would also be integrated. And I'm going to ask you, what influence, if there is any at all, what influence should a party, I mean, we understand at these people are from your party, you put them up, people voted them in eventually, and I mean, at what extent should the party's influence over the activities of the house stop, or should there be any influence at all?
Yeah, of course there should be influence. We run a party system. Of course, a porous party system, because ideally the party presents these candidates, and then the candidates are resolved to abide by the ideology of the party, which interests and mobilize the consciousness and the interest of the people that voted them in. So there is a strong relationship between the party and then the people and even the representatives. So there's a symbiotic relationship. So the party has a kind of influence, because we're talking about ideology. So once, because you rose into the power through these political parties, and then what differentiates your party with other party is the ideology, which people who voted for you, fancy. Of course, like I said earlier, we don't have a political party ideology, but ideally, I'm being theoretical here. So if the members now are defaulting the ideologies of the party, I think it is important for the political parties to call their attention into what they are trying to do. Again, like I said, you see that it's an inter-interest, because you will see that there is even a problem even within the political parties. There is the National Working Committee of the All Progressive Congress hold a different opinion with the state executives. Just I think last week the Senate President called the meeting. In person of Senate, he called the meeting, and Obaseki, the governor of Obaseki, the Inspector General of Police was also there, the DSS was also there. Obaseki was invited, but he did not, he was not present at that meeting. And then, you see, the meeting ended with a resolution that the governor should give in another proclamation as to the date he will, inaugurate the 24, the full house. But about 5 hours after, the governor, issued another statement, that the status quo remain. And then about 7 hours later, they had a court judgment, a court sitting at Edo, that the governor, who happens to be the first the defendant, should go ahead, with the status quo. So it is not even the question of political parties trying to influence. We are not even talking about a section of the political party, trying to influence the say. So you see, everything becomes so controversial and polemic. But the best way to understand this controversy is to see it from the point of inter-interest. You see, I'm only your friend if we have a common ground. If we have a common enemy. You see, until today, Oshomole, who everybody is talking about having a cold war with Obaseki, is yet to even, say anything. He has not. Everything we are talking about is speculative as regards to
the role he plays in all of this.
The role he plays in all of this. He has not. In fact, while I was coming today, I was even searching my phone, my gadget, to find, a statement from Oshomole. He has not uttered any statement. It has always been speculative that perhaps Oshiomhole should perhaps is having an interest against the interest of Obaseki towards 2020.
Oh, so much around 2020, but we're talking about what role all of this plays in how 2020 turns out. But let's talk about the involvement of Governor Obaseki in this. The governor went on, the timing, 9:30 p.m., which was outside legislative time, and 9 persons were allegedly inaugurated June 17, 2019, a couple of days after it was, yes. After May 29, of course, we understand that the next election will be in 2020, without issuing a proclamation. Well, maybe he did, but the G15, which are now G12 as the case may be, yes, said the proclamation was sent to just a few of them. And the law states that a house could kick off when a quorum is formed. That's around 1/3, and
that's
eight of. But then there were 9 of them. 9 of them were involved in all of this. A speaker was appointed. A deputy speaker emerged, and of course, the speaker has been having courtesy visits. People visiting him. He's been going out performing duties of a speaker, and there have been allegations that all of this is illegal. Now, 9 persons are involved in all of this, which even exceeds a quorum that's needed. Does this negate, or should it negate, the activities unfolding in the Edo State House of Assembly?
Yeah, I think, like you rightly said, 1/3 of the House forms a quorum. That is 8 out of 24. We have 9. So that speaks some sort of legality. In the area of who should is there a legal population for that event. So we have 9. The law talks about 8. We had 9. Looking at the timing, 9:30 p.m. You see, it's funny because this is one of the problem of the challenges of Nigerian government and politics, especially for those of us who are interested in it, because most of these meetings are held, during odd hours. In fact, I was trying to follow the meeting that as the Senate President called, but the meeting held around 11 p.m. and it's
Comrade Salakom, you're talking about the meeting here.
Yes.
We're talking about something that should even be open to the public. Where family members are invited, the media covers it. It's a particular event that everyone should be aware of.
Yes,
not
yes.
Just an ordinary meeting.
Yeah, it's a particular event that everybody should be aware of. Like I said again, there is a court, judgment that says that both the people involved, the timing is correct. There's a court. Although we've not had another judgment that upturned that particular judgment, but there's a court verdict that says that perhaps I'm not a lawyer. Perhaps the exigency or emergency of the issue, could warrant them have it around 9:30 p.m. But there's a court judgment, that says that the event is official, is legal, and should status quo should remain. So until and unless we have another court verdict that upturn this judgment, for me, I feel this judgment should stay, because there are certain informations. Of course, there are laws and there are technicalities to each of these laws. We are not lawyers, and we are not judged to interpret. Interpretations at times can even warrant having this plenary session even 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. depending on the exigencies and technicalities that surrounds it. You see, so I don't believe the court rules that you cannot have this at this particular time with these particular people. Then we can begin to question the illegality of the whole thing, and then the rascality of the governor. But the court sitting in Edo State, and we have not have another court yet to upturn that particular judgment. So for me, I feel from the legal perspective, I think it's still it's fine. Like I said again, everything is politics. Inter-interest. The governor is filing towards 2020, which is very, very obvious. And again, that he had a very bad outing during the 2019 general election. If not for the prompt and swift intervention of Oshiomhole, they would have had a repeat of what
2020.
Yeah, no, 2019, because you see the presidential election and the National Assembly election, PDP won on the landslide, except for Oshiomhole's senatorial district, Edo North. So even the local government, at the local government of Obaseki, he lost. Even in his ward, he lost. They lost all National Assembly seats to the People's Democratic Party. So Oshiomhole had to, come in, to make sure that they don't have a repeat of it, at the state
Election next year.
State election. The state election they held, I think, a week after. So they had to summon some stakeholders, to meet with Obaseki and all of that. So so the governor felt that he is losing some sort of support from the people, and then the only way to make sure that his re-election survives is to control the House.
So much around confronting the House, especially by the governor of the Edo State, Governor Godwin Obaseki, and of course, what's lying ahead of 2020. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives is waded into this matter, serving as a big brother. They're going to be investigating the issue, and we've gotten some developing stories that the G15, I saw G15. That's what.
Yeah, it's
the
just
two other
G12
members.
now.
Did they leave to join the other 13 or something?
Yes, they have been sworn in.
But the aggrieved members of the House who were not inaugurated, of course, are saying that they've been. The executive is trying to woo them over with some monies and a jeep. We don't know what truth there is behind that. But we'll look at these and more after this break. My guest is still Comrade Moladimiji Solakom, and we're still looking at the crisis in the Edo State House of Assembly. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. The conversation is still on the Edo State House of Assembly crisis. And my guest is still Comrade Salako. And of course, a lot has been said. Much more importantly, the fact that all of this might not be without the interest personals and persons have in all in whatever it is they are interested in within the house. But of course, there is a standing statement around the issue between the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Comrade Adams Mole, and the governor, Godwin Obaseki, who used to be his protege. But of course, again, you talk about the legality, as you were, of this house, the 9 members, which of course is on break and is set to reconvene later this month, July 17 to be precise. We're having a similar thing, or we had a similar thing play out in Bauchi State, where the governor had his own side and some other people had their own side, and we saw two deputy speakers emerge in Bauchi State House of Assembly. So it's not something particular to Edo State House of Assembly. But I like also look into Edo State House of Assembly again. We've had years on years where issues emerged. I mean, would not be so quick to forget the 2016 crisis when the members outrightly took chairs, were almost eating themselves, pulling the speaker out of the seat, making way for a replacement, as it were. 2014, there was a similar thing. 2019 was seeing something close to it. And it's placing a question mark on the maturity of our state houses of assembly, maybe our assembly as it were, the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly. I'd like us to talk about how mature you consider the people getting into these houses and our legislative arm as a whole.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think I need to sympathize with the heroes past, of Nigeria. It never occurred to them. Of course, I know. I want to believe that we are going to have, this kind of situation in the later years.
They're probably turning in their graves that this was not what they fought for.
Yeah. I want to believe so because disagreement, conflict, it's normal. In fact, it consolidates and aid good governance. But it should be managed in such a way that will not embarrass, the system and in specific and the nation as a whole. You see, like you've rightly said, it's not peculiar only to Edo State. It involves, all other states, including even the National Assembly. I think it is important for we electorates to begin to investigate and interrogate the characters of those that we elect, into political offices. It's very, very important. Only that we must not just digress. You look at the ongoing problems with this, Abo, So it is important. So you can see that it's not limited to a single state. Look at we had something similar to this even in the National Assembly when lawmakers were jumping and then throwing all sorts of. You see, it's a reoccurring issue, and I think the solution to it lies in the hands of we the electorate to question and interrogate the characters, in quote characters of those that we elect into our political offices. It's very, very important. Because, you see, there was a time also we had 2 governors even in the Nigerian Governors Forum, if you can recall, whereby governors, 36 individuals, find it so difficult to find it impossible, not difficult, to elect a single person. We are talking about 36 people in 36 state governors. These are heads and leaders of their different states. So political immaturity, just like you have, mentioned, it has some kind of historicity in Nigerian politics. So the solution to this is for us to interrogate and question the characters of those that we have as our leaders. Again, I think that is something we need. It might be impossible, but that's my logic. We need to look into the amendment of the recall process in the of our members of the House. You see, the recall process is quite very it's quite utopia, if I can use that word, to recall, a member of the house. It's quite, it's too rigid. I would, want a kind of flexible process of recalling members of the house, because the process of impeaching, a state governor, it's just about, if you have majority of the lawmakers, filing an impeachment process, and you send a bluff of that person out of office. But to recall, a member of a house, is quite difficult to impossible. So I think, because most of these things that we see, is because these people felt that, the highest thing you can do is for me to be here for the next 4 years. The highest you can do is for you not to re-elect me. If we have a very flexible recall process, that when we see, because I cannot even imagine that we even have, somebody who apologized for slapping, a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, still, sitting, as a senator representing the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then even when he was called for a panel, he was saying that they don't have the right to question him further. There's a sense of entitlement that once I am here on this seat, there's nothing that can happen to me. After, whatever that will happen will be after the next 4 years. Even governors don't enjoy that kind of rascality. They still, express their rascality, with decorum, having the consciousness that the House of Assembly members, can call their bluff. But for the members, they enjoy almost, 100% entitlement of staying there, without fear of being recalled.
Okay, now the House of Representatives, like I said earlier, is set up a 13-man committee, ad hoc committee rather, to investigate the crisis in the Edo State House of Assembly. And of course, it is chaired by Representative Abdul Razak Namdas, APC Adamawa, and they're going to be investigating. And of course, I said earlier that in the course of the investigation, they should be arriving at Edo State today, and they've been given a couple of days to turn in their report. Members, the aggrieved members now, the G15, G12. Now we say we agreed G12 because two persons were inaugurated by the speaker, some days ago. Now the aggrieved members are saying that we're being wooed. They're trying to bribe us, as it were, with 5 million naira and a Jeep. But let's talk about the investigation. What are your expectations from the investigation? What do you expect that it will achieve?
Yeah, I would first will want to urge the federal lawmakers to be careful in invoking the constitutional requirement, because constitutionally, since there is a crisis, the federal lawmakers has the capacity to take over legislative business in the house. So I would seek and urge a caution. And I think there is a very interesting news coming up this morning also. The Senate also they have resolved to liaise with the rep to support that investigation. And I think that's an interesting news, because I wouldn't want to go into that politics, but I sense some interesting development in that advancement, and that is the fact that the Senate will not be creating a new committee, to investigate, to carry out a special investigation, which is contrary to what we used to have, duplicated functions that exhaust our, resources. The Senate leadership, created a new committee that will, integrate with the that of the federal representative, and then investigate this issue. And then the Senate President, in his wisdom, also had advised that the panel should be subtle in invoking constitutional provision, but go into it and investigate what exactly is the issue. But Like I said, I am my expectation. I feel that the expectation should not differ to what the Senate panel already had. The normal thing, the norms now, not what ought to. I'm talking about now is for the governor to reissue a proclamation for inaugurating 24 members. But I doubt, I doubt the possibility of this, because like I said, it's not an intra-party whatever. It's an inter-interest crisis. That's how I, put it. It's an inter-interest crisis, and then it's quite very difficult for a member of this interest to, submit their to concede defeat, because it's a defeat, because whatever that happens now has influence in the 2020 election.
And which is why I will ask you. I mean, Obaseki is seeking a re-election.
Yes, they're seeking re-election.
Bid,
and there are other members now who are
coming up, sprouting with their own personal interests ahead of the governorship election. What stake does all of this have on Obaseki's re-election bid and the election in the state? Bearing in mind that the challenger, as it were, his former godfather is a national chairman of the APC.
Yeah, Adams Oshiomhole, unfortunately, is giving us this challenge. Because his silence is not really helping the issue. Like I was checking online last night, and there was a journalist appealing that as not just as a godfather, as a statesman, it is important for him to come out now and issue, a statement, that can dose, the tension. It's still speculative that it's a cold war between Oshiomhole and his protege, because Oshiomhole obviously will not be seeking re-election in 2020. Perhaps he may not also have interest in the governorship election. But I think to dose the tension, Oshiomhole, in his wisdom, I'm appealing to him also to come, to come out, not as a godfather now, but as an elder statesman, in Edo State, as a former governor, two-time governor in Edo State, as a national chairman of APC, to come into this matter and issue, perhaps the other 12 members are waiting for his body language or his statement, or people are waiting for his body language. The silence to me is what is, is creating unnecessary conversation. And if he can come out, issue a press statement, or, call a meeting, because he has not been meeting with Obaseki for a very long time. Call a meeting, let people know what exactly is the problem, and I also think, but I'm not so sure that if Oshiomhole will be part of the investigative panel, if perhaps
that might be biased if he's part of the investigation.
No, because if you are investigating, as an entity,
they ask him.
Ask questions.
Okay.
He should be part of those that, as an elder statement.
Absolutely, and it is state in the first instance.
Yeah,
so you really
he needs to come out.
You need to come in and say something.
Say something and let everything just.
Thank you very much, Comrade Salakom. I mean, we're looking forward to a better legislative harm, not just in Nigeria, not just in the States, but of course in Nigeria as a whole. Earlier you talked about being careful about evoking a part of the Constitution, which is the Section 11, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution, which allows for the House of Reps to take over activities.
Absolutely.
But of course we're asking that the House of Representatives ad hoc committee would ensure that the investigations are free and fair. But in all of this, we're expecting that before the July 17, when the House is supposed to reconvene, all of this will be resolved, because in the midst of this, the people suffer. So let's put the people's interests first, make it a priority, and let's see things better in Edo State House of Assembly and spread across the different houses of assembly in the country. It's the much we'll take on the program today. Thank you very much for coming again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Comrade Oladimiji Solako has been my guest, and of course, there's been a lot said on Edo State House of Assembly crisis. I am Olajumoke Babalola. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you.